Hi HR Nation, it's Chris Rainey. Welcome to HR Leaders, the show where we interview today's most successful and innovative HR practitioners 5 days a week. Today's guest is Hein Knaapen. Hein is the Chief HR Officer at ING. Hein, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Chris. I'm fine, but I have to start to correct you. I know Dutch names are very, very different.
What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Tell me.
So the correct pronunciation is Hein Knaapen.
Knaapen. Oh, no.
But now you get closer.
No problem. You forgive me, don't you? Look, Hein, fill in the gaps. Tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your journey to becoming the CHRO ING.
So I've been an HR professional all my life. I started 33 years ago at Unilever in one of their factories in the Netherlands. And then I had a number of jobs across the country and across various parts of Unilever. And then I moved to Brussels as the assistant to the HR director of what was called then Lever Europe, which was the European detergents company of Unilever. And you may remember what played then. That was the personal power crisis. So we had developed a spectacular new detergent, which burned holes in your underwear. That was not good. And that was bad. And so
too strong.
That was a deep crisis. And that crisis was very beneficial to the future success of the detergent company. So one of the first times that I experienced that a crisis can be very conducive to future success. So that's what I learned there. And then I moved back to the Netherlands and had some jobs. And I ended there as the HR director of Unilever Netherlands, where we, just before I left, combined all the operating companies of Unilever into one integrated company. And that, on finishing that, I moved on to a Dutch telecom operator as a chief HR officer and KPN. And I was there for 6 years. And then I had a sabbatical for half a year. And then I joined ING. So that's the facts. But along the way, looking back, I can see how I have developed as a human being. And on a concurrent track, it took me until the age of 30 to have the courage to come out as a gay. And then it took me a number of years to really get used to the personality that I had become, to really live as a gay and get married. And I was been married with my husband now for 15 years. So what I could almost precisely indicate to you where my career shifted from being an okay career into a very nice career. And that was around the moment that I really had the courage to declare to the world that this was who I was and this was the life I was going to live. I had to divorce, I had small children. That was all not very nice. And I'm happy to say things are really very happy with each of them now. But that personal development and that big step I made in my personal development to tell the world who I really was very beneficial to the pursuit of my career. So would I not have had that moment and that coming out, I would have been in a very different place from where I am now. So that is, in fact, that's an even more interesting story than just a succession of facts for how I got to this job.
No, I think very, very interesting. And it must have been quite, of course, very scary, of course, but also very exhilarating for you to almost, announce the real Hein to the world, right? And that's obviously going to build your confidence behind that. So that's an incredible story. Thank you very much for sharing that, because certainly, as you said, it's a lot more interesting and a lot more relevant to what helped you succeed and give you that confidence to go forward and become CHRO and where you are now. So thank you very much for sharing that. Yes. Just going back a step for one moment, why HR? What was it around HR that you thought, you know what, this is an area I think I can grow a career in?
So here's the honest answer. I got in it was then called personnel, as you may remember.
Yes, of course. Even I was young enough there, 17 years old, 10 years ago. Yeah. Personnel.
Officer. I was a personnel. I had no clue. I had read organizational psychology. Didn't know what to do. got to know Unilever. They offered me the job. I said yes, didn't know why. So that is an example. When I once was a recruiter for Unilever, and then I always took my own history as an example of how not to do things. But here's the great story. So that's not an ideal start. But Chris, you see that what I keep telling my children and told them when they were to choose their jobs, very seldom are things beautiful by themselves when you pass by. Things become beautiful because you invest time in it, because you start seeing the beauty behind the surface, and in a way that is, I would advise no one to do it as I did at the time, but you come to see the greatness of a job and the attractiveness by investing in it. And so while working, I started finding out it was a very, very nice professional remit to be in. And if you then see how personnel moved into HR, and if you look at where the HR function now is in good companies compared to 30 years ago, the function itself has made a terrific journey as well. So that's that journey, but also I've come to see this is a bloody interesting field to be in. So I build up my enthusiasm along the way. And back to where you started with your question, it all started a bit unfortunate in a way.
Mm. I think it's funny because when I started this podcast, it seems that I think about 80% of the HR leaders that I've interviewed have a similar story who didn't really, I think most people in the world don't really know where they're going to go in their career. Who does? You know, I don't think anyone growing up was going to say, I'm going to be a HR director, or I certainly didn't think I'll be doing this. You know, I was a professional dancer, and I was going off to go to university to study art. And now I got a part-time job speaking to HR leaders, inviting them to an event at 17. And then I really enjoyed the job. I kind of, as you said, I found by doing it for those few months, I really like this actually. But and as you said, the only way you know, and I think it's really good advice, because a lot of people say, I don't know what I'm going to do when I leave university, or I don't know what career. I think the advice is try as many things as possible. And then you'll find out.
You guys in the United Kingdom have a habit that I really admire. So someone goes to university, they read something they really like, and I hope they make it as difficult as possible. And then once they're done at university, they go and look for a job which may be very different. And that fits the road to maturity, isn't it? So you can't expect a child of 15 to know what he wants to be in life. Yeah. So I think I like your thinking. You have to try out things and don't be too upset if things don't work out immediately.
No, I've kind of tried to take the approach over the years now, just to fail as much as possible, because that means I'm always trying and I'm always experimenting with new things. And it's been looking at it not as a failure, but as an experiment. It's something I was thinking about last night. You know, scientists call it experiments, but we call them failures. It's quite interesting when you think about that, right? So if you look at their experiments, they have thousands and thousands of failed experiments before they have a successful one. And that's the way I look at my life now. I'm always trying to experiment. Yeah.
I don't know of any failures. I do know of 10,000 ways that don't work.
Yeah. It's exactly. But unfortunately, there's that negative stigmatism that's attached to that, and everyone's so scared of failure. But no one ever remembers your failures. They only remember your wins. That's the way I look at it from my perspective. So moving on, could you share one project or transformation that you've been through in your career that most stands out to you, that you're most proud of?
Yeah. There would be a few.
I'm sure.
Recent, so I could also list a few projects that I'm not proud of and that I'm pretty embarrassed about. But then, so let me take one that is a very recent one, which is let me take the HR, the transformation of the HR team at ING. We started looking at ways of improving our HR information system since we had some spectacular failures. And then one of our countries, the Netherlands, which is one of the biggest countries within ING, started working on the launch, started finding out which HR information system would fit us. Now, what you should know is ING currently works on over 200 HR information systems.
Wow.
over 70 variable pay practices. And we, of the 1,050 people at ING, in HR at ING, over 600 are in admin. We do not do a particularly good job there, despite all the great intentions and hard work of those that do the work. Now, it started with thinking about an HR information system. It gradually moved to offshoring of HR admin. And then we started realizing that offshoring local HR admin to global HR admin is something we'd never done before. Then we started looking at vendors who could work with us, so from offshore to outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, in the end, to cut a long story short, we struck a deal with IBM, since a very, very, very experienced in global people services. We would no longer call it HR admin. And then along the way, my own thinking evolved about what are we really for in ING? So why is there an HR function? What is our added value? And then to summarize that rewarding but difficult thought process, here's the framework we developed. It starts with making explicit what we are for. And what we said is we are here to build the craftsmanship and the engagement of everyone that works in ING for them to deliver on the strategy. Here's the background, Chris. We don't run this business. That's for our management. Mm-hmm. We're here to make sure the business is being run well. So that hence the point about we build the engagement and the craftsmanship, and then the people in the business can do the work themselves. So how do we deliver on that purpose, on that vision? Essentially in two ways. One is, and that was a new thought for myself, one is it by offering great people services. So by offering people services that create a differentiating employee experience. Here's the background. So if you just do HR admin, you, in terms of your mindset, you remain in the remit of efficiency. Mm-hmm. But think of being able to, like we want, it's in our strategy, like we want to create a differentiating customer experience. Think of what it would do to the bank if we would do the same to our employees. That would certainly build their engagement. So that's what we said. Let's move away from HR admin. Let's relabel that to people services, and let's just adopt the ambition to offer them in such a way that that gives a wow experience. Well, then you understand you need a different sort of professionals for that. This is not what we are naturally good at. So that's one way in which we ensure we build the engagement of people at ING. The other way in which we do that is by enhancing management capability. The way we've put that is to create better managers and greater leaders. So that's for our HR business partners. And they should not be burdened by case management. They should not be burdened by sheer servicing. They should not be burdened by solution building. They should just focus on enhancing the capability of that management team they work with. And then underlying that, you need a few things. One, HR information system, that's Workday. You need standardized processes, that's what we're doing. You need communities of expertise that are global and that develop the people solutions and sustain our own knowledge. And you need a partner for the people servicing. So if you take that together, then you've got the framework of what we have called HR Unite. And it is about, in the first place, taking out 30% of our costs. But more importantly, even more importantly, it's about focusing on a number of professionalism, a number of professions that had got blurred a little bit in HR. So an HR business partner should really be a business partner, not a servicer, not a case manager. An expert should really be dealing with building solutions, nothing else. A people services professional should only be offering people services, and so on and so on. Now, what I like about the thinking is, and that was hard work, but what I like about the thinking, it's a simple thinking. It's a simplicity, so to say, beyond the complexity. And that's why the story resonates very well. Now, the work has just taken off. We're just moving to IBM.
Sure.
Just moving to new roles. But I'm very proud of the thinking we did. And I'm very proud of how we've been able to energize the HR community and the bank to join this process.
Fantastic. Very interesting, and definitely
Yeah.
a huge shift, both in the way you're operating, but also in the mindset of everyone in the organization. How did you, technically, I completely understand the solutions you're using, but how did you engage the team in this change and tell that story?
So good point, good question. So I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new if I say that no big transformation gets applause right from the beginning.
Yeah, of course.
I've been privy to many easy changes and they were not all that important. And I've been privy to important changes and they were not easy. So it starts with refusal, with skepticism, and it starts with all of that. And we've been going through 1.5 years of preparing the minds by, if I would say that simply, by going around, sharing this story with people, involving them in process redesign, involving them in what it would look like to do this. You can't take away that over 500 people in my team will lose their jobs. That's not nice, you see. That's this. So don't expect those people to applaud. The only thing you
Sure.
can do with them is being respectfully clear and transparent with them, and and try your very best to ensure they get jobs outside ING that fit them well. So that's part of the quality of the process. But besides that, I've had many rounds of conversations with board members, and of course the business case itself is a pretty compelling one.
Sure.
Story in my own conversations with senior management, I have honed and refined the story, and so it's now better than it was when we started. So I think that's the long answer. I think the short answer would be it has been a sort of reiterative process by which we have taken on comments by the business, refined our story, allowing them time to get used to the new thinking. And the work will only be done when it's done. But so far it looks we have done a credible job of creating the engagement of people around it.
Yeah, I'm glad you answered it that way, because the reason I answered that is everyone seems to be looking for this quick fix or this magical solution. But I knew you was going to say that, but I wanted our listeners to hear that, because it is an ongoing process and it's continuous. There's no easy way around it. And as you said, you have to go to the key stakeholders and leaders individually and have that conversation with them. There's no easy way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted, I was kind of hoping that you'd give that answer, because I think people need to hear that, and it's important that people understand that. I had the chief HR officer of a huge investment firm on last week, and they went as far to say you also have to be willing to put your own job on the line. You know, that you have to be able to put yourself out there and be willing to put yourself out your own seat. Give up your own seat in a sense. So it's very, very interesting to hear that. So moving forward, obviously it's going to be very exciting, the change that you're having now. And with this change also comes a shift in the skill set that's required along. So what HR skills do you believe are going to be more important in the future?
Yeah. So of course, there sits a lot around people analytics. So using, knowing how to ask the right questions around your workforce that enable you to draw conclusions from the data you have. So it's the data, creating the data, making them available of the right quality. That's already a challenge, but a greater challenge will be how do you ask the right questions to the data in order to enhance your understanding of what's going on in the workforce. That's an important new capability, where we will have a central team of people analytics guys and girls. But the most essential part is, I think, teaching our HR business partners, teaching our experts to ask the right sort of questions. Since my understanding of what I've read so far and what I've done so far in the realm of people analytics, it is the data analytics are already a commodity. It is just the quality of the question that makes the difference. So that's one. The other one would be, if you take away from the HR business partner all the servicing, if you take away all the tool building because you do that centrally, if you take away all the case management, then the HR professional is naked. Then there's nothing to hide behind. Then you have to deliver on your promise to enhance management capability. That, in other words, that is, how do I become the trusted advisor? But an advisor is not just a bystander who answers your question. And the trusted advisor is the person that interrogates you, that probes you, and that disagrees with you, because that will make you a better manager. That capability is a scarce capability. So I could mention other capabilities,
Sure.
but I currently more focus on how do I get in the HR professionals? How do we grow the HR professionals? Of course, that know their job, know their profession, but then have that particularly unafraidness to challenge management. And there's one thing I'd like to add, which is, we often say to each other, business knowledge is of primary importance in the HR job. Yes. However, the added value does not sit there. The added value sits in your HR professionalism. If I were only great in understanding business, I would be no different for my CEO than all the other than all the board members that report to him. You get it's that combination of being an excellent professional, reading, exchanging, making sure you know what you're talking, and then in addition, it is that particular ability to be unafraid in challenging, in working with, in supporting senior management. Those are critical capabilities.
How do we have that shift in mentality? Because I've certainly experienced that in my own career, where, you know, sometimes in my younger days, I'm still young now, but when I was very, very young, I would go to my leader with a suggestion or an idea that was conflicting to their own, that I felt could help improve what we're doing. And it's a very awkward place to be. And especially in most organizations, people don't have that confidence to do that. And unfortunately, those ideas are the ones that are most innovative in some senses, that will never see the light of day. So it's just very, very important that we do that. So I'm really happy you said that. What are some things that you're doing to encourage people and build that as part of the culture?
So we spend a lot of time, and we're getting better at it, a lot of time at capability building, a lot of time I spend with my own team. Over time, I have come to, and I'm almost saying that to you hindsight, I've come to refocus the attention of my team meetings, the focus of my team meetings on in-depth exploration of topics to make sure, so I am, that holds on my level. I don't have to tell them how to do their job, so that I can leave them. I hope they will recognize me as someone that can add to the depth of their professionalism. And so what we're talking is the topics of great business importance, the big chunks of our own professionalism, and how we work with those to serve our senior management. So they are only about deepening our professionalism in order to ensure that every team member, when they work with a very senior manager, are just comfortable and confident about their own knowledge base. And once they have that confidence, they will be able to work at an equal footing with senior management. So this is what I'm now really focusing on, equipping the people in my team to have that conversation by working on their professionalism and also by working on their personal confidence to have those conversations.
Are you also doing the same work with the senior leadership team to encourage that behavior as well?
Yes. That's a long journey.
Yeah. So, it's a big shift. It's a very big shift.
And it takes, and you said something like, earlier on this conversation, you said something like, there are no easy solutions. And that's when I have meetings with the CEO and we talk about new interventions and new things we will work on. He's most often very appreciative of those, but he always says, there are no silver bullets. There are no silver bullets. It's hard work every day.
That's true, yeah.
And he's right. Yeah.
So where we are now in the wider business sense, where do you see the biggest opportunity for the organization, and how are you working with the wider business to help them achieve that, supporting them with HR?
So if you if you look at what we are doing now, so the CEO, our CEO, he was in Las Vegas yesterday on a big fintech affair, and he made a big address, and he said, we work a lot with fintech, and we learn from them, they learn from us, and we buy them, or we have preferred collaboration with them, or whatever. But he says the biggest risk doesn't sit there for us. The biggest risk sits with Amazon. That is such an adventurous company, and the way they use platforms is spectacular.
It is.
Yeah, and we acknowledge that we will go on to have some real pipeline businesses where we make good money, where we're relevant for the customer. We'll go on to do that, but we are experimenting with platforms. So platforms like, we own the platform, we own the data and the intimacy with the customer, but then we allow all kinds of other vendors to interact with our customers as well, in order for our customers to have a place where they can go and can deal with all their financial needs in a simple, attractive way. Now, if you want to achieve that requires a very different sort of collaboration with competitors.
Yeah.
It requires a very different sort of collaboration within the bank. We used to be a very federated, decentralized bank. So much of what we're doing is focused on taking out every differentiation in the back office that is irrelevant for the customer. So at Unilever, we would call that apply a liberating rigor to those support processes, and is liberating in the sense that if you get things straight and in one way of working in the back of the office, then that just saves you energy and money you can invest in the front. Just very simple conceptually, but very difficult to do. So that's how are we going to become much more disciplined and much more used to one way of working in the back of the company, and how are we going to enhance our adventure, our capability to venture out in the front. So the practical way we're dealing with this is it's easy to get carried away with innovation. It's easy to say we need very different people. We need a very different culture.
Yes.
The culture is not going to change overnight, nor our capabilities. So what we're saying is we have to make that much more granular. So we're currently in a big project that's being led by my team, which we call behaviors and capabilities. And it's about, let's be precise, what organizational capabilities do we need more of, and what do we want to do without? The same for behaviors. And how does that translate in initiatives we have to take? So, and there's only so much you can do. So you can't change the whole world in 2 weeks. So be as precise as possible, as selective, and focus on what's really going to make a difference for the customer in 3 to 5 years. So now that's a very long answer, but we're in the midst of it, and we're trying to just de-romanticize it. We're trying to demystify it and make it as actionable as possible.
Very, very interesting. It's very refreshing to hear you refer to Amazon as an organization that you see the opportunities and how they innovate and how they're constantly doing new things and different business segments. You only have to look at something like Alexa. The future is voice, 100%. I have one right here. right there. I actually send an Alexa to all of my speakers for all of our events. To every single one of them. They all have Alexas now, probably driving their wives crazy at home, or their husbands. It's my entire house is automated. Yeah, every single room, every single light is Wi-Fi.
With Alexa,
everything. Multiple. I've got Alexa as my primary Amazon Alexa as my primary driver, and then I have Hue for every single light bulb in the house, and I also have Samsung hubs which control a lot of the other devices, like the plug sockets, the heating, everything. Door sensors. It's pretty crazy. But back to that point anyway, I think it's amazing that you're comparing yourself to companies like that, because that just shows me and also your customers that you're always looking to innovate and create new new streams of revenue and new business models constantly, which is pretty amazing to hear.
Yeah, and I have to say it is pretty much driven by the CEO, who is a real strategist. But it's important to understand as well. Innovation is not purpose. We really, as a company and as an HR function, live from a purpose, and the purpose we have got at ING, to which the priorities of my team are tightly linked. The purpose reads: we want to empower our customers to stay a step ahead in life and in business. And if you look at that, that does not even say it's all about banking. Of course, we are bankers, and of course, that is the hardcore of our expertise. But we're open to gradually adjusting that, because the purpose we have is to empower our customers to stay a step ahead in life and business. And the interesting thing about the purpose is that it is highly engaging and highly motivating to work for a purpose. Just read modern motivational literature. It's a very stable anchor for everything you do and you don't do. So the innovation we're involved in is a sort of innovation that we think we need to remain relevant. It's not innovation for the sake of innovation.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of what a lot of organizations I see doing. They're just innovating because it's the buzzword and everyone's innovating, and we have to innovate, but unless it's aligned with a purpose, and I see what you mean, doesn't really make much sense to the customer and the business at the same time. Well, look, that leads us quite nicely on to what we call the quick fire round, where I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you have no more than 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers. Are you ready? What was the number one thing that was holding you back from becoming the CHRO within the organization, or a senior HR leader?
Personal courage.
Fantastic. What's the best piece of business advice that you've ever received?
Business
advice. The best piece of business advice that you've ever received.
Good question. That was about my own. Let me think. The best advice I got: if you're not changing today, then when will you change? That was yes. If you don't start changing today, then when will you start? 20 years ago. That's probably the best advice I got in my life. Yeah.
No, very, very interesting. What's one book that you'd recommend to our audience, and why?
There would be many, but let me take one. One of the most impressive little booklets I've read over the last few years. It's called written by Gregor Frankl, the Viennese psychiatrist who spent 5 years in a concentration camp, and he wrote this beautiful book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a pocket book of 120 pages. He read it in 2 days, and it's a beautiful book about meaning, about courage in life. Beautiful, beautiful book.
Fantastic. I'll definitely link that up in the description. Yeah. Could you share one internet resource that you use to personally keep up to date with current events or to educate yourself?
Internet resource.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm a bit old-fashioned. I use CEB. So they are really, really good. And I have to say, I'm a bit digital reader of The Economist and the Financial Times. Great sources of general knowledge about the world.
Fantastic. And what's one thing about your business that most excites you today?
It's interesting. I would not be the retail bank, which is great in itself. We've got a great business in what we call structured finance, which is because of our deep knowledge of industries. We're not a very big bank. We're a medium bank. Because of our, for instance, in natural resources, we've got such great knowledge that we often lead bank syndicates for very complicated loans. And that we've got such a deep, long-standing knowledge there. And it doesn't look all that sexy, but it's probably where we create most value for our customers in the wholesale area.
Fantastic. Well, look, Hein, you've been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So you definitely give us some actionable advice. So I know that our members will be a lot better off for it. So thank you very much for that. Give our listeners one parting piece of guidance. If there was one piece of guidance you could give to other senior HR leaders out there, what would that be?
It's your professionalism. It's all about your professionalism.
Okay. Fantastic. And what would be the best way, if anyone would like to get in contact with you, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Very simple. LinkedIn or hein.knaapen@ing.com. It's all very simple. And write it correctly then. Yeah.
I will. I promise. I've got it. I'll make sure I do. Well, thank you again. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. Guys, make sure you head over to hrdleaders.com. There you'll find all of the show notes on the episode, everything we've been talking about, all of the resources that were mentioned. Hein, thank you again, and for sharing your journey. You're certainly going to be a busy man with this new journey you guys are on. So I wish you all the best until we next speak.
It was great to be with you.
Fantastic.